Many gardeners are concerned about next year because there is a potential, it's looking like an El Nino year. So after this year's drought, which is what we've all been talking about, we're now thinking, hey, it could be even worse next year. So I wanted to make a video about 12 crops that I grow here that I would trust in a drought. Now, all of these crops are edible, but some also have ornamental value because I think it's really important that we have some beauty even when everything else is very dry to a crisp. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the most surprising crop of the list. I mean, there's a couple of surprising ones, but the first one is this here, kale. And it's not just this variety of Cavallonera, I've got other varieties as well. And it just seemed to hold quite well, and it didn't run to seed or flower or stress. It just kind of held quite well, and I could get harvest during them when so many of my leafy greens were really struggling. And so I was so impressed by kale, and I highly recommend it. And because of it, I now love this plant, whereas before I used to think, oh, you know, feed it to the rabbits. Interestingly, the perennial kales like this Dorberton's variegated and the keeper's kale, they also fed really well during the hot, dry weather. So if you want to create an even more resilient garden, look at where you can integrate perennials, and perennial kales are a perfect way. I kind of call them the gateway drug into perennial gardening. These here are autumn raspberries. You can get them in red, you can get them in gold. I grow a variety called All Gold, and these didn't have any rain, any special treatment at all. I can tell that the leaves look like they've been struggling a bit, but they've still yielded a fantastic crop of delicious, sweet, juicy raspberries, even under the stress of this year. So consider having this is also on a south-facing slope. So I've had the sun coming down, beating down, and they have done so well. I've been so impressed by these. So I definitely recommend growing these. And also, they're perennial, which helps. A lot of vegetables and fruit and stuff really have struggled this year. But one of the things that I still, despite the lack of rain, have had too much of, because I'm looking here and I'm like, oh, I've got a bit of a marrow here, but it's courgettes or zucchinis. There was about a week where I was like, oh, are they going to be okay? But they just kind of went through it, and they're still producing a huge amount of food, more than I can manage from these 3 plants. So I was very impressed to see that. Now, a little bonus, they're a little bit over now, but they're still kind of producing is cucumbers. This variety is outdoor market more. I was just particularly impressed by the courgettes. Sunflowers. Why are sunflowers included? That is a very good question. Firstly, look at them. Stunning. This was direct sown, and I don't think it was watered, but the sunflowers still grew, and they're yielding beautifully. Now, the thing about sunflowers is that the unopened flower heads can be steamed and eaten. Also, when they've just gone over prime flowering, you can kind of like prepare them and cook the heads, and then obviously you have the seeds. So it might not completely feed you, but it's a nice supplement. But you've got all of this joy and abundance and colour, and you can also do things like grow dwarf varieties of sunflowers. This epic plant here, this shrub, that I have to be a bit careful about where I put my hands because there's just so many bees on it. This is called Himalayan honeysuckle or pheasant berry, and this is grown in like municipal areas, in like car parks and stuff, because it's so hardy. Like you could put it anywhere and it will grow. Now, the thing that is so lovely about this, and this is like a 2-year-old plant, is that it produces loads and loads of small black edible or like dark brown edible berries that they need to be squishy when you eat them. That's when you know they're ripe. They just taste like molasses. And I have a challenge. If you're into making kombucha, make a kombucha with these berries. It's pretty fun. This here behind me, it looks like lots of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. It's actually a type of rose, Rosa rugosa, a wild type. You can get it in white flowering. I've got a couple of pink flowers left. You can eat the flowers, you can eat the petals, but what's really fun about these almost like tomato looking like fruits is you can use them to make different things. You can use them to make cordials. My absolute favourite thing is to make like a kind of like a jam. It's more like a jelly out of this and have this on toast. It does require a bit of processing, but it is as tough as nails and it also looks stunning. The last three plants, which are both edible and beautiful, are in fact edimentals. And I've got my book, Edimentals, coming out in October. So it's just around the corner. There's a link down below. It's packed with loads of different annuals, biennials, perennials, trees, fruit, shrubs, herbs, of beautiful things that you can grow in your garden that you can also eat. It's also a great gift to give to someone to try and get them into growing. They grow some flavour, grow some beauty. What's not to love? Down below. This incredible tall plant is called giant goosefoot or tree spinach, and it is a beautiful edimental again that will self-seed, so it kind of almost perennializes in your garden. This has beautiful magenta tips. It's a lovely thing to add into salads. You can cook them and process them if you're worried about potential oxalic acid levels, but it's a great fun thing to have, and it also creates some shade. And the great thing about shade is that where you have shade is a great opportunity to plant things like leafy greens during later summer, your salads, that won't have the intensity of the sun and will help be nice and productive even if there's not much water. I wanted to make sure that this video didn't have to include things that you'd grow in a polytunnel. Now, obviously tomatoes, we think of them as warm loving crops, same with peppers, but they also need quite a lot of moisture to yield well and to grow well, which is why I didn't include them in this video. Now, maybe next year is a good opportunity to try a couple of outdoor tomato varieties and see how they do. I just know that they would need more water than the other crops that I've mentioned in this video. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to lift out a whole plant, which I've got here. This is a cute little plant. This is a dwarf bean. You can have like the French dwarf beans, the Bolotti ones. And this is one of my favorite things to grow because it is low down. You can tuck it underneath taller things and it works really well even if there's very little water. It doesn't require that much water to produce all of these beans. So it's a really useful plant to have, or a crop to have, to plug between gaps between other crops and just give you a little extra food. This gorgeous plant is called red orac, or orach, or orach, probably in Welsh, because the CH makes a sound. But that's not the point. The point is this amazing plant that is again an edimental that can perennialize itself. This is all self-sown, by the way. I didn't sow this year. This loves and adores the dry heat, and it produces loads of leaves. I mean, it's flowering and seeding now, but all of these leaves are an excellent addition to salads, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So this plant here, or this collection of plants, they brought me so much joy when this year has actually been very, very stressful. And this is one of the few plants that have just made me think, at least you're happy, mate. Good on you. Here I've got a big, let's say, rhubarb patch. Now it's a little bit too late to eat rhubarb, at least this variety, because of the oxalates then going down and being in the stem. But you can harvest it up until around the start of August. Now, this has not been watered once, and it is maintained. I thought this would be one of the first things to wilt, but it's done so well around the rest of the site. But my top tip, which I have growing over there, is to grow a variety called Glaskins Perpetual, which has much lower oxalic acid levels, so it's safer, and it's got perpetual in the name, so you can still be harvesting this in August, September, and even October, getting fresh rhubarb, which is also incredibly productive. Here's a fun one. This here is coriander, and or cilantro. For so many people, they're like, oh no, it started to boil, it started to flower and run to seed. And that is not a bad thing, because you get these beautiful little unripe or the green seed heads, which you can do so much with, so much like pickling, fermenting, even just cooking it. Really nice added to like fish dishes, those kind of things. So it just gives you a different type of harvest. Instead of saying, oh yeah, okay, maybe I don't have the coriander leaves, but you can get such a mass of these green seed heads. You can also then obviously dry them and use them for cooking over the winter months. So that's great. And I love the way that these white flowers work with amaranth, which is another one of my absolute go-to crops for drought. Amaranth is so happy from, you know, where it's come from. It's so happy when it is dry and there's not lots of rain, and you can use it as almost as pretty much a grain crop from the seeds that you can harvest, add that into salads, things like that. But also the little leaves can be eaten and added to salads. And it's just such a joyous plant. You can probably see something just behind me, that massive one there, slightly different variety. It's so happy. And so if I can grow things that are so happy in the garden, I will try my best and do that. I mean, look at this, absolutely insane. One single plant, that is. So it adds so much interest to your garden. But one thing that I want to make sure is kind of crystal clear is next year, don't stop growing some of the other things, some of your other crops that might not have done well in this drought. I think there were certain strategies and techniques you can use earlier in the season to still enjoy the other things that you love. I've written a Substack about it, which I've linked down below. It's free to read for the first week. So give it a read, and hopefully that'll help with giving you a bit more confidence to grow the other things and not miss out too much next year, even if there is an El Nino year.